The billionaire saw his ex-girlfriend on the plane. Next to her were two identical twins, making the billionaire exclaim, "Oh my God! It can't be like that." 3 rows behind him sat two little boys with jet black hair and bright green eyes. His nose, even that tiny scar above the left eyebrow that he got when he was 6 years old. These boys had his face. Exactly his face. And sitting right next to them, holding their small hands, was the only woman he ever truly loved. The woman who disappeared 8 years ago without a trace. Riley Bennett. Have you ever seen your entire past sitting right there in front of you? Have you ever discovered a secret so big that it could change your whole life in 1 second? That's exactly what happened to Jake on Flight 762 from Paris to New York. What would you do if you found out you might be a father to children you never knew existed? Before we dive into this incredible story, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. Trust me, you're gonna want to remember this one. And subscribe to Tales Cleave because we bring you real stories about real choices that change everything. Now, let me take you back to the beginning of that unforgettable day. Jake Carson was not your average guy. At 38 years old, he was already a billionaire. He started a tech company called Skybridge Solutions when he was just 25. The company created software that helped hospitals save lives. Within 10 years, Skybridge was worth $3 billion. Everyone knew Jake's name in the business world. Magazines put his face on their covers. People called him a genius. He gave speeches at big conferences. He had offices in 12 different countries. But nobody really knew Jake. Not the real Jake. The Jake who woke up at 3 a.m. sometimes, staring at the ceiling, wondering if all his success meant anything at all. The Jake who worked 90 hours a week just to avoid going home to his empty penthouse apartment. The Jake who never got married, never had kids, never let anyone get too close. Because 8 years ago, Jake made the biggest mistake of his life. He let the love of his life walk away. Her name was Riley Bennett. And until this moment on Flight 762, Jake thought he would never see her again. Jake settled into seat 4A in business class. It was a long flight, 7 hours from Paris to New York. He had just finished a week of business meetings in France. Big deals, important contracts, the kind of stuff that usually made him feel accomplished. But today Jake just felt tired. He put his noise-canceling headphones on. He opened his laptop. He tried to focus on the quarterly reports his assistant had emailed him. The plane took off smoothly. For the first hour, everything was quiet and normal. Then Jake heard it. A child's laughter, high-pitched and full of joy. Then another child's voice arguing playfully. "That's my tablet." "No, Mom said we have to share." "But you've been playing for 20 minutes. So what? You always get extra time." Jake smiled despite himself. Kids could be funny sometimes, even when they were fighting. But then something made him take off his headphones. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was just curiosity. He turned around in his seat and looked back. That's when his whole world stopped. 3 rows behind him, in seats 7B and 7C, sat two identical twin boys. They looked about 7 or 8 years old. They both had thick black hair that stuck up a little in the front. They both had bright green eyes, the exact same shade as Jake's. They both had strong jawlines even though they were still kids. And they both had that tiny scar above the left eyebrow. The same scar Jake got when he fell off his bike at age 6. Jake's heart started pounding so hard he thought it might explode out of his chest. No way. This can't be real. He gripped the armrest of his seat. His hands were shaking. He stared at those two boys like he was looking at ghosts. And then he saw her. She sat in seat 7A, right next to the window. Riley Bennett. 8 years older than the last time he saw her, but still just as beautiful. Her long brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore a comfortable sweater and jeans. No makeup. No jewelry except for a small silver necklace. She looked tired, like someone who had been carrying the weight of the world for a very long time. But she also looked peaceful, content, like she had found something Jake never could. Purpose. Riley was gently separating the two boys, telling them to calm down. reminding them to use their inside voices on the airplane. Her voice. God, Jake hadn't heard that voice in 8 years. It was softer now, more patient. The voice of a mother. A mother. Jake's brain was spinning out of control. The math was simple, brutal, undeniable. 8 years ago, Riley disappeared. These boys looked about 7 years old. Maybe 8. The timeline fit perfectly. Riley had been pregnant when she left. She never told him. Or maybe she tried to tell him and he didn't listen. Jake's stomach twisted into a knot. Memories came flooding back. Memories he had tried to bury for almost a decade. It was February 2017. New York City was covered in snow. Jake and Riley had been dating for 4 months. For perfect, beautiful, intense months. They met at a charity event for children's hospitals. The kind of event Jake usually hated but attended because it was good for business. Riley was there volunteering. She was studying architecture at Columbia University, dreaming of designing buildings that could change communities. She was different from every other woman Jake had ever met. She didn't care about his money. She didn't want to be seen with him at fancy restaurants. She didn't post photos of them on social media. She just wanted to talk, to laugh, to cook dinner together in her tiny apartment, to walk through Central Park holding hands. For the first time in his life, Jake felt like he could breathe. But then February 14th came. Valentine's Day. Jake had planned to work late. Again. There was a huge investor meeting the next morning, and he needed to prepare. Riley showed up at his office at 8 p.m. with homemade dinner in a basket. She was smiling, nervous, excited. Jake, we need to talk, she said. Those words. The words every man fears. But Riley wasn't breaking up with him. She was giving him the greatest gift in the world. I'm pregnant, she whispered. Jake's brain went blank. He stared at her hopeful eyes, at her trembling hands. And then he said the worst thing he's ever said in his entire life. Riley, this isn't the right time. Her smile faded. What do you mean? I mean my company is at a critical point right now. I'm working on closing a $100 million deal. I can't handle this right now. Riley's eyes filled with tears. Handle this? Jake, this is a baby. Our baby. I know, but we need to be logical. We've only been together 4 months. We're not ready. I'm ready, Riley said, her voice breaking. I'm scared, but I'm ready. The question is, are you? Jake ran his hands through his hair. He felt trapped, cornered, panicked. Riley, I'm asking you to wait. Just give me 2 years. Let me get the company stable and then we can. 2 years. Riley stood up. You want me to wait 2 years? Or we could consider other options, Jake said quietly. The room went silent. Riley stared at him like she didn't recognize him. Other options, she repeated slowly. You mean get rid of it? I mean we could think about what makes sense. Get out, Riley said. Riley, please, get out, she screamed. Jake had never heard her raise her voice before. He stood there, frozen, realizing what he had just done. I thought you were different, Riley said, tears streaming down her face. I thought you actually cared about something other than money and success. But you're just like everyone else. Riley, I do care. No, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't be asking me to choose between you and our child. So I'm choosing. I choose this baby. And I choose to never see you again. She walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Jake. And just like that, she was gone. Jake tried to find her. He called her phone, disconnected. He went to her apartment, she had moved out. He contacted her friends. They said she didn't want to be found. He even hired a private investigator, nothing. Riley Bennett had vanished completely. And after 6 months of searching, Jake convinced himself of something terrible. He convinced himself that Riley had ended the pregnancy, that she made the choice without him, that he would never be a father. So he buried himself in work. He built his empire. He became richer and more successful than he ever dreamed. But he never fell in love again. Because deep down, Jake knew the truth. He had already found his soulmate. And he destroyed it. Now, 8 years later, Jake sat frozen in his airplane seat. All those memories crashed over him like a tidal wave. Riley didn't end the pregnancy. She ran from him. She raised their children, alone. For 8 years. Jake felt like he was going to be sick. He looked back at the boys again. They were playing a game on a tablet now, taking turns laughing together. Brothers. Twins. His sons. Jake had missed everything. Their first steps. Their first words. Their first day of school. Every birthday. Every holiday. Every moment. Gone. He had to talk to her. He had to know the truth. Jake's hands were still shaking as he unbuckled his seatbelt. He stood up slowly. The business class cabin suddenly felt very small. Every step toward row 7 felt like walking through mud. His heart was pounding so loud he could hear it in his ears. Finally, he stopped right next to her row. Riley didn't notice him at first. She was helping one of the boys with something on the tablet. But then she looked up, and her face went completely white. For 3 seconds, neither of them moved. Riley's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Her eyes went wide with shock, then fear, then something that looked like anger. "Riley," Jake said quietly. His voice cracked when he said her name. One of the boys looked up at him curiously. "Mom, who's this?" the boy asked. "Mom." That word hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. Riley quickly put her arm around both boys, pulling them close to her, like she was protecting them. From him. "No one," Riley said coldly. "Just someone I used to know." Jake felt that like a knife to the heart. Someone I used to know. "Riley, please," Jake said. "Can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about," she said, not looking at him. "I think there's a lot to talk about," Jake said, his eyes moving to the two boys. They were both staring at him now with those bright green eyes. His eyes. Riley saw where he was looking. Her jaw tightened. "Go back to your seat, Jake." "Riley, are they?" "I said go back to your seat." But Jake couldn't move. He couldn't walk away. Not now. Not after 8 years of wondering and regretting and wishing he could go back. "Are they mine?" Jake asked, his voice barely a whisper. Riley's eyes flashed with anger. "It has nothing to do with you," she said through clenched teeth. "Nothing to do with me?" "Riley, look at them. They look exactly like." "I said it has nothing to do with you." Riley's voice got louder. The other passengers in business class started looking over. One of the boys tugged on Riley's sleeve. "Mom, why are you yelling?" Riley immediately softened. She touched the boy's face gently. "I'm sorry, baby. Everything's fine." But everything was not fine. Jake took a step closer. "Riley, please. I need to know the truth." "The truth?" Riley finally looked him in the eyes. "The truth is you made your choice 8 years ago. You chose your company over your family. So I made my choice. I chose to raise my sons without you. My sons. Not our sons. My sons. You never gave me a chance," Jake said desperately. "You just disappeared." Riley actually laughed, but it was a bitter, painful sound. "I disappeared? Jake, I told you I was pregnant. I gave you the chance to step up, and you told me to wait. You asked me to consider other options. You made it very clear that a baby didn't fit into your perfect business plan." Jake felt shame burning in his chest. She was right. He knew she was right. "I was wrong," Jake said. "Riley, I was so wrong. I was scared and stupid and—" "Save it." Riley cut him off. "I don't want to hear your excuses. My sons don't need your excuses. We're doing just fine without you. They're my sons too." Jake's voice got louder. Now several passengers were definitely watching. A flight attendant started walking toward them. One of the boys started crying. "You're scaring him," Riley said angrily. Jake looked down and saw one of the twins, the smaller one, with tears running down his face. The sight broke something inside Jake. "I'm sorry," Jake said immediately. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." He knelt down so he was at eye level with the boy. "Hey buddy, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I promise." The boy wiped his eyes and looked at Jake curiously. "You look like me and my brother," the boy said in a small voice. Jake's throat got tight. "Yeah," he said softly. "I guess I do. Is everything all right here?" The flight attendant arrived, looking concerned. Riley quickly composed herself. "Yes, everything's fine. This gentleman was just going back to his seat." The flight attendant looked at Jake with a warning in her eyes. "Sir, I need you to return to your seat. We can't have disruptions in the cabin." Jake stood up slowly. He looked at Riley one more time. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "I'm not walking away again." Riley's expression was cold. "You don't have a choice." Jake pulled a business card from his wallet and placed it on the armrest next to Riley. "Call me, please. We need to talk about this properly." Riley didn't touch the card. Jake walked back to his seat, feeling the eyes of every passenger in business class on him. His legs felt weak. His hands were still shaking. He collapsed into seat 4A and stared at the back of the headrest in front of him. Everything he thought he knew about his life had just been destroyed. He had sons, twin boys, about 7 or 8 years old, and they had been living in this world without him. Because of him. If you're feeling the weight of this moment, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will blow your mind. Would you fight for a second chance? Or would you accept that some mistakes can't be fixed? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to like this video. The next 5 hours were the longest of Jake's life. He couldn't work. He couldn't read. He couldn't sleep. He just sat there, replaying every moment of the last 8 years. All the times he wondered what happened to Riley. All the times he almost hired another investigator to find her. All the times he told himself it was better this way. He had been lying to himself for 8 years. Riley didn't end the pregnancy. She raised their children alone. While he was closing business deals and buying luxury cars and staying in 5-star hotels, Riley was changing diapers and teaching 2 boys how to walk and staying up all night when they were sick. Alone. Without any help. Without any money from him. Without anything. The guilt was crushing. Jake pulled out his phone. He opened his photo gallery and scrolled through years of pictures. Business trips. Award ceremonies. Board meetings. Conferences. Not a single photo of anything that actually mattered. 3 rows behind him, he could hear the boys laughing at something on their tablet. His sons. He didn't even know their names. Jake felt tears burning in his eyes. He wiped them away quickly, but they kept coming. For the first time in 8 years, Jake Carson cried. When the plane finally touched down at JFK Airport, Jake's heart started racing again. He couldn't let Riley disappear again. Not this time. As soon as the seatbelt sign turned off, passengers started standing up and grabbing their bags from the overhead compartments. Jake stayed in his seat, waiting. He watched Riley help the 2 boys put on their backpacks. The boys were excited, talking about seeing their grandmother and going to their favorite pizza place. They sounded so happy, so normal, so loved. Riley had done an amazing job raising them. Without him, that thought hurt more than anything. Finally, Riley and the boys started walking down the aisle toward the exit. As they passed Jake's row, one of the boys looked at him and waved. A small, innocent wave. Jake's heart melted. He waved back. Riley saw the exchange and quickly grabbed the boy's hand, hurrying him along. Jake waited until they were off the plane. Then he followed at a distance. Through the jet bridge. Through the terminal. Down to baggage claim. He kept about 50 feet back, trying not to be obvious. But Riley knew. She kept looking over her shoulder, seeing him, and walking faster. The boys were struggling to keep up. "Mom, why are we running?" one of them asked. "We're not running, sweetheart. We just need to get our bags quickly." At the baggage carousel, Jake stood across from them. He didn't try to hide anymore. Riley saw him and her eyes narrowed. She whispered something to the boys, and they both looked at Jake with curious expressions. The baggage carousel started moving. Suitcases came around one by one. Riley grabbed 2 large bags and gave the smaller ones to the boys to pull. Then she started walking toward the exit. Fast. Jake followed. The cold New York air hit Jake's face as he walked through the automatic doors. Riley was at the curb, trying to wave down a taxi. The boys were shivering in their light jackets. Jake jogged over. Riley, wait. She ignored him. Riley, please. Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I already told you no, Riley said, still not looking at him. A yellow taxi pulled up. Riley quickly opened the door and started putting bags in the trunk. Get in, boys, she told them. Riley. Jake's voice got desperate. You can't just disappear again. Watch me, Riley said coldly. The boys climbed into the taxi. Riley was about to get in too when Jake gently grabbed her arm. Please, he said. They're my sons. I have a right to know them. Riley spun around, and her eyes were blazing with anger. You have a right? She said incredulously. You gave up that right 8 years ago when you told me to get rid of them. I never said that. You said we should consider other options. What the hell else does that mean, Jake? I was wrong. I was scared and selfish and completely wrong. But I'm here now. I'm asking for a chance. It's too late. It's not too late. Jake was practically begging now. Riley, I made a huge mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. But I can't change the past. All I can do is try to fix the future. Please, let me be part of their lives. Let me be their father. Riley's eyes filled with tears. You think it's that simple? She said, her voice shaking. You think you can just show up after 8 years and play dad? No, Jake said honestly. I know it's not simple. I know I have to earn it. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll go to court if I have to, but I'd rather not. I'd rather do this the right way. Together. Riley wiped her eyes quickly. Inside the taxi, one of the boys rolled down the window. Mom, are we going? He called out. Riley looked at her son, then back at Jake. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out the business card Jake had given her on the plane. She held it up. If, and I mean if, I decide to let you into their lives, it will be on my terms. Slowly, carefully, and the second you hurt them, you're done. Understand? Jake nodded so fast he almost gave himself whiplash. Yes, anything. Whatever you want. I'll think about it, Riley said. Maybe I'll call. Maybe I won't. But don't you dare try to follow us or show up at our house. If you do, I'll get a restraining order so fast it'll make your billionaire head spin. She got into the taxi and slammed the door. The car drove away, leaving Jake standing alone on the curb. But for the first time in 8 years, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Jake couldn't focus on anything. For 3 weeks, he stared at his phone every 5 minutes, waiting for Riley to call. But she didn't. His assistant noticed. His business partners noticed. Everyone noticed that Jake Carson was not himself. He canceled important meetings. He forgot about conference calls. He sat in his office staring out the window instead of working. All he could think about was those 2 boys. His sons. He didn't even know their names. Jake started doing something he never did before, research about being a father. He bought parenting books. He watched videos online about raising boys. He learned about schools and sports and toys and everything he had missed. Every night, he wrote letters he never sent. Letters to Riley apologizing. Letters to his sons explaining. Letters he knew would never be enough. On the 22nd day, Jake's phone rang. Unknown number. His heart jumped into his throat. Hello. It's Riley. Jake almost dropped the phone. Riley, thank you for Saturday. Central Park. 2 o'clock. Near the Bethesda fountain, Riley said quickly. The boys want to meet you. They do. Jake's voice cracked. I told them the truth. That you're their father. That you didn't know about them. They have questions, Jake. Lots of questions. Can you handle that? Yes, absolutely. This is a trial. 1 afternoon. If it goes badly, that's it. Understand. I understand. And Jake? Don't bring expensive gifts or try to buy their love. Just be real. The phone clicked off. Jake sat there holding his phone, tears running down his face. Saturday. 3 days away. The longest 3 days of his life. Jake arrived at 1:45 p.m. He wore jeans and a simple sweater, no suit, no fancy watch, nothing to show he was rich. He just wanted to be a dad. The park was beautiful. Families everywhere. Kids playing. People laughing. This was the life he could have had. At exactly 2 o'clock, Jake saw them. Riley walked toward him holding the hands of 2 boys in matching blue jackets. His sons. Jake's legs felt weak. As they got closer, Riley let go of their hands. "Boys, this is Jake Carson. Your father." The 2 boys stared at him with those familiar green eyes. "Hi," Jake said, his voice shaking. "It's really nice to meet you both." The taller boy spoke first.
"I'm Mason."
"This is my brother Carter. We're twins, but I'm 7 minutes older." "Mason and Carter," Jake repeated, smiling. "Those are great names." Carter, the smaller twin, tilted his head. "Why didn't you want us?" he asked simply. The question hit Jake like a truck. Riley started to interrupt, but Jake held up his hand. "That's a fair question," Jake said, kneeling down to their level. "The truth is, I didn't know about you. Your mom tried to tell me she was going to have you, but I was scared. I said some really stupid things. And your mom decided to raise you by herself because she didn't think I was ready to be a good dad. Are you ready now?" Mason asked. Jake looked at both boys. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I've never been a dad before. I'll probably mess up a lot, but I promise I'll try my hardest. If you'll let me." The boys looked at each other, having some kind of silent twin conversation. Then Carter said, "Do you like video games?" Jake laughed with relief. "I love video games." "What about pizza?" Mason asked. "Pizza is my favorite food." "Can you throw a football?" "I'm pretty good at football." Carter grinned. "Okay, you can be our dad." Just like that. Kids were amazing. They spent 3 hours together. They got ice cream. They threw a frisbee. They sat on the grass and talked. Jake learned everything. Mason loved science and wanted to be an astronaut. Carter loved drawing and wanted to design buildings like his mom. They both loved soccer and video games and pepperoni pizza. They told him about their school and their friends and their grandmother who lived in Brooklyn. And slowly, carefully, they started to trust him. Riley watched from a bench nearby, never taking her eyes off them. At one point, Carter fell and scraped his knee. Jake's instinct kicked in immediately. He was there, checking the injury, calming Carter down, making him laugh. Riley saw it all, and tears filled her eyes. When the sun started to set, Mason asked, "Can we see you again?" Jake looked at Riley. She nodded slowly. "Yes," Jake said. "If your mom says it's okay, I'd love to see you again." "Next Saturday?" Carter asked hopefully. "Next Saturday," Jake promised. Jake saw his sons every weekend. Sometimes they went to museums. Sometimes they played in the park. Sometimes they just sat in Riley's apartment playing video games. Slowly, they became a family. Not a perfect family. Not a traditional family. But a real family. One Saturday, Mason asked Riley directly, "Are you and Dad going to get married?" Riley and Jake both froze. "That's complicated, sweetheart," Riley said carefully. "But you like each other, right?" Carter added. Riley looked at Jake. Really looked at him for the first time in months. "Your dad and I are figuring things out," she said. "Right now, we're focused on being good parents to you. That's what matters most." Jake nodded. "Your mom is right. We're not together like that. But we're a team. We both love you more than anything in the world." The boys seemed satisfied with that answer. But later, when the boys were in the other room, Riley said something that surprised Jake. "You're a good dad," she said quietly. Jake's eyes widened. "You think so?" "Yeah. You show up. You listen. You care. That's all they need." "I have 8 years to make up for," Jake said. Riley shook her head. "You can't change the past, Jake. But you can show up for the future. And you are. That's what matters." For the first time in 8 years, Riley smiled at him. A real smile. And Jake realized something. Being a father wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about money or success or grand gestures. It was about showing up. Being present. Choosing your family every single day. Jake Carson lost 8 years with his sons. 8 years he can never get back. But he didn't waste time being angry or bitter. He spent every moment he could making things right. Because second chances aren't given, they're earned. And Jake earned his. Here's what we can all learn from Jake's story. It's never too late to do the right thing. You can't change yesterday, but you can change today. Real love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. And family isn't just blood. It's commitment. If the story touched your heart, hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that second chances are possible. Subscribe to Tales Cleave for more stories that remind you what really matters in life. And drop a comment below. What would you do in Jake's situation? Would you fight for your kids? Or would you walk away? Remember, the best time to be a good parent was yesterday. The second best time is right now. Thanks for watching Tales Cleave. See you in the next story.